Pressure doesn't break great leaders. No, it reveals them. And the question is not whether pressure will come, but whether you've trained to lead through it without panicking. Come on, let's go ahead and get this conversation started. Welcome back to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast, where we explore the mindset, resilience, and intentional leadership practices that help you and I to grow, adapt, and to lead with clarity in every season. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today's conversation is about something that every leader faces. We're talking about pressure. That's right. High expectations, fast decisions, and moments where everything feels urgent. This can either create panic or it can build champions. Well, I'm super excited for you to meet our guest today. I can't wait to tell you about Cameron and then for you to meet him. But before you do, I want to remind you to make sure that you join us here on Transformation Station every Monday and Wednesday, because on Monday and Wednesdays, we meet great leaders, gurus in the industry who give us practical tips and wisdom. And you know what? You don't want to miss one episode, not one. Matter of fact, I want to remind you that coming up soon, we have Kathy Eastwood, who is going to join us, and we're going to be talking about leadership isn't complicated. That's right. So you want to join us for this conversation. And for those who want to go deeper, like you want to continue to engage with Mobilizing with Impact, I'm going to invite you to go to our community group, mobilizingwithimpact.com. You want to join us there? We get a chance to meet and engage and talk and dive deeper. We have once a month leadership seminars. If you're not a part of this community, you know what? You're missing out. So go to mobilizingwithimpact.com right now. Go right now and join us. And I can't wait to see you there. Well, let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Today, I have the honor of having Cameron Magee with us, and he is the founder and CEO of AVAD3, a national production company trusted to deliver flawless and high-stakes events and conferences for more than 20 years. He has been behind the scenes of some of the most visible gatherings in the country, producing summits and galas and conferences for Walmart and the White House and major associations. And you know what? What sets Cameron apart is not just the productions that he leads, but it's his passion, which you're going to see when we talk. His passion for teaching planners how to navigate budgets and rehearsals and technology with confidence. You know what? I'm done talking because it's time for us to meet Cameron. Cameron, welcome to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. We're so thrilled to have you with us today.
It's an honor to be here. What a great lead in. I love your energy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're talking about pressure. And, you know, Cameron, we as leaders talk about many things, but I have to admit that pressure really isn't one that we spend a whole lot of time. We feel it, we sense it, we see it through how we engage, but we don't really talk about it. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today. And I want to start off by highlighting this and then asking you this question. When I think of how to thrive under pressure, I know for a long time I thought that I had to eliminate my stress in order to thrive. But now, as I've been in leadership for almost 3 decades, I realize that a lot of it has to do with strengthening my ability to keep myself focused, to stay centered, to stay grounded in the midst of the pressure. So pressure, every leader faces it. Not all of us handle it well. So let me ask you this. What separates those who thrive under pressure from those who freeze or burn out?
I love it. It's a great question. I can't wait to talk about this, Adrian. Events are a lot of pressure. We do over 150 events a year all over the country. So they're just another day for us and our folks. But for most event planners that we're working with, they do, 1 or 3 events a year. And so it's always a high stakes moment, different events that are business summits or something, maybe they only do one a year and it's their moment in front of all of their stakeholders to get it right. nonprofits doing a gala or something. It's like, this is our night, one night a year to make budget for the coming year. It's a lot of pressure. I love your question there of, in leadership, you can't always make it go away. In my personal life, I'm a pilot. I fly just little planes, little Cessna planes. I rent them out of our local airport, and it's a lot of fun. But my best friend in high school, a lot smarter than me, a lot more gifted than I am. He went to the Naval Academy and he flies F-35s for the military, which is a huge honor. And when I talked to Nick, the training that he has to go through, they go through all this G-force training and this pressure training. And he has videos where his face is sucked back in the chair, and it just makes you appreciate what these men and women do for our freedom. But that's not a pressure that I'm ready for as a pilot. I like the Cessna pressure. And so for me, I think you have to know your aptitude. And just because I'm not ready for that today doesn't mean in 10 years I may not be ready for it. The president of the United States was 36 once. They may not have been ready for that pressure at that time, but it's about getting yourself ready for that pressure, not running from it, embracing it, but also knowing your limits and maybe not becoming an enterprise Fortune 500 CEO at age 16 or something like that. There's a reasonable amount of pressure. The difference between being challenged and being overwhelmed, perhaps. So that's some first thoughts on that topic. I love that question.
Yeah, I love that. And, here at Transformation Station, we invite those who are listening and watching to stop, pause, and really hone in on what is being discussed. And so to all of our leaders, I want to ask you right now, as Cameron has started this conversation, what's resonating with you when we talk about pressure? Even when you look at this question, what separates those who thrive and those who freeze or burn out? What would you say? Go ahead and tell us in the chat. We want to hear from you today. And, as you were talking, Cameron, I was thinking about how do we move forward, right? As we wrestle with the tension or freezing or burning out. And I was thinking about this best practice that we could posit to our listeners and viewers, just develop consistent routines that will strengthen focus and clarity before the high pressure situations arise. So many times, Cameron, we just focus on what do I do in the moment?
Yep.
But man, there's some prevention work that we can do, right? Like, be aware. To thy know self be true. I know
That's
that
right.
there was a season where I had to stop and say, you know what, Adrian, what are your triggers? What are those daily practices? What are those habits? If every time a tasker is due, you find yourself in the midnight hour burning the candle at the last minute and feeling
Yeah.
stressed out, there's a problem. And the problem is not the tasker.
That's right.
The problem is the habits that you set up prior to, right?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
We had a situation on an event just last week that it just brings up this story of what you just talked about. When the time to perform has arrived, the time to prepare has passed. That's a lot of alliteration, but I love that quote from a mentor years ago, just saying that to me. And we had a situation last week where we actually prepared for this situation 5 years ago. And we had an event 5 years ago where a microphone died on stage. It's a freak accident. We sell flawless event production. Like, we're very passionate about, if you hire us, there will be no flaws. But one of my favorite clients of all time said, Cameron, it's not about striving for perfection. It's unattainable. It's about how your team responds in those moments is what I love about working with y'all. And so 5 years ago, we had a crazy situation where all the wireless technology in a whole building got zapped. I don't know if there was some electronic pulse nearby. I don't know what happened, but all wireless went down in a building. And so on that day, we learned our lesson. We started hiding one wired microphone, an old school, nobody uses these anymore, but just a tried and true wired microphone on the corner of the stage, that if anything were to happen, we know we can grab that. It's got a 100-foot cable and the show can go on. And we have put that same wired mic on the corner of every stage, 150 events a year, 5 years, 750 events, not needed at one time. But last week, we had a similar situation where, crazy thing, a mic died. And because of our teams being prepared 750 times, we didn't panic in that moment. But had we not done that, I think everybody would have just panicked. But we were calm under pressure because we had prepared. That's just a quick story, but I just love this topic.
I need you to go back and you started off with a phrase that I need to write down as a quote. You said the time to, I think the time to prepare.
Yeah, I don't get credit for this one, but the mentor taught me, I was a very young man at the time. He said, when the time to perform has arrived, The time to prepare has passed. And
Amen.
that's worded in a haunting way, that if you're at the time to perform and you have not prepared, that time is in the past. But it's a haunting, it's a healthy anxiety to say, okay, I need to prepare before the time to perform. I prepared for this podcast. You prepared for this podcast, I can tell. And so we're both here ready to go. But had we arrived ready to perform for the audience at this moment and we're not ready, it's that opportunity has passed and it's go time.
Mm, like I'm stuck on this quote right here. I have to marinate in it. When the time to perform has arrived, the time to prepare has passed. I'm passing that on to my staff because there's lots of wisdom in that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me ask you this question, right? So in moments of stress or chaos, mindset becomes everything. How do you personally reset or ground yourself when the pressure starts to build?
Yeah. Everybody's different there. I am a kind of an engineer type by nature. And so I'm a very just if this, then that. I'm kind of a pragmatic systems nerd, so to speak. And so in moments in my career, whether it's been in a live event where something goes wrong and I need to make sure that I can still lead through it and recenter, or a lot of the hardest parts of leadership in my job as a small business owner are more the HR things. It's more the team situations, or when something, scary happens that's not necessarily a show, but it's important to our culture and our people. And in those moments, again, because I'm an engineer and a nerd, I typically start running through more of a systems checklist. Just like, again, I won't use too many pilot references. I love, that's my hobby. I love flying, but there's a checklist for everything. If the engine goes out, you turn over this piece of paper and you run through the checklist. And that gives me assurance. We trained for that when I was a student pilot. We trained for that of, okay, the engine just went out. And my flight instructor would do it in a mean way all the time. He's just like, oh, the engine's out. Now what are you going to do? But it was meant to remind you that you can't control the variable, but you can control how you respond to it. And as you said, the mindset's everything. And so staying calm in those moments, I think, is important. I also know my weakness. I'm not great at optics or PR. I'm not great, in that moment, I'm going to objectively fix the issue. Maybe the microphone's going to work all of a sudden, or if it's a team thing, it's okay. We've stopped the leak. The building's not going to leak now or something. But I'm not great at thinking like, well, what's the communication plan of this? Or what's the role? I'm just like black and white, 1 and 0, it's done, it's fixed, we're good. I'm
Right.
still growing and being transformed in a leader on the PR of that and the press release of that to the team and communicating it's fixed, we're good. I'm so quick to move on, but that's a way that I'm growing and transforming at the moment.
I love that. As you were talking, I was thinking to myself, man, it's almost like clarity comes from the intentional pauses.
Yep.
Clarity comes from the intentionality. And leaders, again, we want to hear from you. Share with us right now, DM or put it in the comments as you're watching this on the replay or live. I want you to go ahead and put it in the comments. What's resonating with you? We want to hear your gems, and I promise I will share it on a future episode. So, Cameron, many people think calm equals confidence, but it's not always natural, right? So, what practices help leaders to train that ability to stay composed when things get intense?
Yeah. So we coach a lot of presenters. I've worked with a lot of executives from Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1 companies. I'm honored to have that moments in my career. We've worked with the White House and really important people, not just executives or leaders, but musicians and performers and all sorts of folks. And really, there is no substitute for reps. Just I'm not good at working out, but repetition, reps in the gym. There's no substitute for it. And we can have the most smoothest, charismatic leader in the whole world, but if we don't have a brief rehearsal to talk about, hey, what if this happens or what if that happens? There's no substitute. And so again, all my metaphors and everything I talk about, everything is always about live events because it's just where I've spent my entire life is preparing these people to look and sound their best on stage and things. But for me, if I was working with another leader, it's even if we can't get you on the stage, if we can't get you to the arena the week before, let's mock it in your conference room. I'm in a conference room right now. I've flipped a lot of these rooms where we get the table out of there. We set up the confidence monitors. We'll put small lights really bright and kind of simulate, okay, this is this. And oh, the lights went out, and similar to student pilot years of just pulling the power, you have to have reps of getting your heart rate up, but then realizing it's going to be fine. You got to do that 10 times where you're like, oh, it's this again. I know this feeling. And so as a small business owner, maybe that feeling is, hey, we're low on cash in the bank account. In the early years, I wasn't as good at managing cash flow. And so I had a lot of reps of what it's like to be out of cash and have a problem that week. And now cash doesn't scare me as much because I've seen that. I've had that elevated heart rate and been fine. And so I'm assured, it's kind of this cycle of alert and now what? And we did that and we're fine. And then that of repetition around situation. But I'm a little bit of a jerk in these rehearsals with the executives, not trying to be mean, but we'll pause the prompter for a second and kind of see how they respond. Do they lash out at the prompter operator? Do they start calling them by name? If this fails, do they assume it's them, or are they kind of more of a humble leader that it's like it's probably me? And that way we know how to kind of respond if something were to go wrong. We can kind of read, how does this person work? But I do it for their own good, and I hope that they know that as a coach. Obviously, I'm pushing them for their own good, but it's important to get the reps. Hopefully that's not too long-winded of an answer there, Adrian.
That's a perfect answer. Wonderful answer. Because I was thinking to myself, just, as leaders, as we look at how do we lead our teams with appropriate balance and making sure that our motives are in check, there are some times where we can guide our teams into situations and circumstances that are not ideal to be able to, it's almost like, I think about the phrase building muscle memory. Yep. Building that muscle memory of how we want to conduct business, how we want, I think about customer service, right? And it's so important. Sometimes you're going to get a customer that comes in, they're furious about something. What helps to de-escalate is when you're able to stay calm.
Yeah.
When you don't match that fire with fire, right? Oh, yeah. But you just stay calm. Because then the person has to figure out, am I still going to be angry and upset? And like they hear themselves, they notice that you're not matching that same intensity. And many times they tend to just, they're still firm. They're not happy, but they tend to dial it down.
Yep.
Right. And so, a best practice that I thought about was practice leaders maintaining composure in every challenge and everyday challenges to build resilience for high pressure moments. It's important for us as leaders to practice having composure, not being perfect, because our people know we're not perfect, right? Not being perfect, but being progressive. Practice having composure. Because I don't know about you, Cameron, but I've found that our teams, they model what we put out.
We set the temperature for sure. We're the thermostat for sure. So yeah, and just same thing with kids. You're setting the tone. They're going to mirror all of that. But you can tell when someone blows their top or loses their cool that they haven't been in that situation before. And you can tell when people have. There was a moment a year or two ago. I think it was Carrie Underwood, maybe at inauguration or something. But like her track didn't start. But she just paused for a minute, took a deep breath, and just sang the song a cappella. Because she's been doing this for 20 years. She's a pro, and she actually got more credit for that was cool. But you can tell when somebody goes up and it doesn't go just right, whether it's a performer or a leader or a customer service moment, you can tell the calm confidence of, I've prepared for this. Even if you haven't seen that exact situation, you're ready for it. So it's a good talk. It's a good discussion.
I love it. So, we often think of pressure as negative, like I was starting to say at the beginning, right? But it can also bring out greatness. How can we reframe pressure as an opportunity instead of as a threat?
Yeah, I think that's so good. It's 2026 when we're recording this, and I think in a way we've become so sensitive to being uncomfortable. But really, discomfort is what leads to growth. You can't. Again, I'm no athlete. I feel silly using a gym metaphor, but you have to tear a muscle for it to grow. It's all of our journeys as leaders are all about stretching ourselves. And, when I was just starting out and it was just me and a couple of folks as a small business, I could have stayed there. We've grown over the years. I'm really grateful to say we've been super blessed. We're a lot bigger and more, it's a larger thing now, but I'm prepared for today because we went through the highs and lows of those reps through that season. I think, most organizations, myself included, really are limited by the leader more than anything. I think we could be as large as our company, as our team of Odd3 wants to be. It really comes down to how large of an organization am I capable and equipped to lead? And you see that sometimes in leaders, maybe a replacement leader comes in, or it gets handed to someone's son or daughter or something like that. And And you can tell when maybe they've had a very comfortable life, and they haven't had those adversities. But I think it's timeless wisdom. I think it's biblical wisdom to say, make it difficult on a young man, on a young woman in their youth. Yoke them with a little bit of extra weight early so they're ready for it. A good baseball player puts weight on the bat when they're
Mhm.
warming up, and then they drop that weight and go hit a grand
Oh.
slam. It's our job to have a
Mhm.
little bit of pressure on us as leaders. And then the hard thing, what's really hard as a parent and as a coach and as a leader, is being willing to put that pressure on the individuals for their own good. That's something I
Mhm.
confessed to somebody on my team literally yesterday, and already this morning, it was just a few hours into the day, was, hey, I see this. I want to coach you through this. I think you need this. But I hesitate to say this right now because I can tell you're struggling. It's hard for me when you're struggling to say, here's some more weight on the bat. Here's some more weight on the bar. But I think if you don't go through this moment now, you're not going to be prepared for where we're going. And so I'm
Mhm.
always dancing with that. It's an
Mhm.
awkward, subjective dance of how much
Yeah.
pressure is good for me and good for them. Again, you
Yeah.
don't want someone to be overwhelmed and crack and break, but championship teams and Olympians are not formed from spending just spa days. I mean, you have to get uncomfortable to be
Mhm.
ready for the championship and the tournament. So, yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff there. I love this talk.
Absolutely. So when pressure hits, right, emotions can take over many times. We're talking about emotions like frustration, like fear, like doubt. Let's talk about emotions taking over for a few minutes. I am a firm believer that emotions are natural, but the but is just they don't have to dictate every decision that I make or how I handle it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm grateful for emotions. I think emotions are a great indicator. I don't know what emotions animals have. I think my dog gets sad. I think my dog gets happy. I can tell his tail's wagging. But I
Hmm.
think that emotions are a gift to us as humans, and I think they're a great indicator. They're almost like a gauge on the dashboard in your car or something like that. This is a helpful input. An hour before we were on the air, I was in our shop, next door. We're loading out. This is our busiest 2 weeks of the year right now. It's a big sprint. And one of our production managers flagged me over and said, "Hey, this truck's about to load. I was looking over this piece of gear, and I'm anxious about it. I'm nervous. Do we have enough spares of this gear? Because this show's on the road. It's going to be out of town." And she was like, I'm anxious about this. And I loved responding and saying, "Hey, I think that's a really good emotion in a healthy way. I think it's a healthy identification for you to say, hey, I'm a little anxious about this. Perfect. Let's pay attention to that because that's what made you flag me over. Let's look at it. I'm not going to calm you down just to make you feel better. Let's objectively
Right.
look and see, this is how many you need. This is how many spares you have. Is that within a reasonable tolerance?" Because we've had other shows where that anxiety fuels, they send double everything. Well, now we're sending double trucks. I mean, that's not efficient or effective for the client's budget.
Hmm.
And so it's healthy to listen to emotion of, I've got a little bit of anxiety about this. Okay. But I think you have to channel that into action to just stay anxious, to just stay scared, to just stay even a good emotion like confident. I've got swagger. I'm confident. Let's go. I'm going to go get this thing. Check that and be like, is that actually backed up by like facts and like you should be confident because you've been here before, or is it just arrogance?
Right.
But I think the emotions are a helpful indicator, and should be used and channeled into action. Anxiety channeled into preparation, maybe confidence channeled into like research. But they're not irrelevant. But I think that again, in the modern day, I think we're overemphasizing our emotions too much. Of,
Mhm.
oh, I feel this way, and so that must be true. Emotions are not true. We've
Correct.
all had a moment where we felt happy, but it actually wasn't, or we felt sad, but we just misunderstood our friend and what they said. And so I
Yes.
think if we treat emotions as a gospel, as a black and white, we all know better that emotions can trick us. Every cartoon has like an angel on their shoulder and a devil on their shoulder, and they're both talking to you. You can listen to either voice. I think it's important to not give the enemy a seat at your table. And the emotion can be the enemy if you're
Yes.
not paying attention to really the truth of being grounded and what do I know is true here.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think emotions are a gift and they're an indicator, but they are not gospel. They are not factual. They are subjective, and treat them like that.
1000%. There are sometimes in our organization where, as a staff, we have a conversation, especially like when we're in a challenging season, and we'll have a conversation about fact over feelings.
Good.
Let's put feelings to the side right now. What is true? What is real? What must happen? when this conversation is over.
Good.
Then we can bring in now, how do you feel about what happened? But we can't start off with feelings as our foundation because it's so fickle,
That's
right?
right.
It changes, right? So, I want with that being said, facts, like what strategies help you? What strategies do you recommend to leaders to help us to regulate emotions so that our emotions don't derail our focus or, here's the big one, our decision making?
Yeah. I love what you said about, let's come back to the emotions, but first let's stay in this moment and protecting that moment.
Yes.
I think what I would say, one of my favorite mentors has been with me since the dorm room, like since founding the company. And I've got a monthly call on Zoom with this mentor. So we've been together for over a decade. And I just had my call with him last week, and I love staying in touch with him. He's older and wiser, and I gleaned so much from him. One of the first things he taught me early was the phrase, "Math has no emotion." And he
Mm,
caught me as a young man. I don't know if it's universal, but certainly as when I was a young man, I was more fueled by my emotions. I don't know if that's a sign from being a teenager, or I don't know what that is, but I was certainly more emotional then than I am now. Now I have children, and it's my job to kind of stay grounded and help them with their emotions. But at the time, I think he noticed I was making a lot of decisions off of emotion. And
mhm,
he reminded me of something that has helped him, which is math has no emotion. And that's
mm,
like, what is that? Math has no, 4 words. And those 4 words kind of echo in my mind pretty quickly when I start to make a decision. We were making a leadership decision first thing this morning about how we're going to spend this. We've got a pocket of time this summer. We have limited time. We can get some summer special projects done in our low
mhm,
season. Summer's our slowest time in events, believe it or not. And so that's our moment. And we were looking at, we've got 10 good ideas. Which ones are great ideas? Because we can't do all 10. And that
mhm.
phrase came back up of, well, math has no emotion.
Mercy.
Which one of these projects helps our math? Which one
Mhm,
of these projects helps our profitability? Which one of these projects moves the needle to set our team up to succeed for the fall? Not just which one of these do we feel good about, or are we happy about, or excited about? Those are all good feelings, but I think
mhm.
math has no emotion. So that's kind of what I have to say about that.
I love that 1000%. So, as we turn the corner on this conversation, which has been amazing, I want to ask you this final question. For the leaders that right now are listening, they're watching, who right now they feel overwhelmed. What's one or maybe two? What's one powerful shift that this leader can make today to move from panic to purpose and to perform with clarity and calm?
Yeah, two things. I'm incapable of getting out of that alone. And maybe I'm
Mm,
weaker than you as a audience member listening to this, whatever. And you say, "Oh, I'm stronger than this guy," but I know that I'm too weak to get out of panic alone.
mm,
And so for me, I've got 3 very important people in my life. I've got my wife, I've got my
mhm,
executive assistant, and I've got our lead integrator, our general manager over our business. And I can talk to any of those 3 at any time about, "Hey, I'm stuck here," or
mhm,
in a panic here," or "I'm worried here." And they can objectively help me talk that out. I don't think I'm alone in that. A lot of children and things are like that too. You have to talk it out, because you have to go from subjective to objective on when you're stuck. And so the first thing I would say is, don't isolate yourself. I try to be so self-resilient and self-reliant, and it's easy for me to try to be the rugged individual and say, "I'll put it on my shoulders and I'll just go figure it out. Let me just go for a long walk or just pull an all-nighter." Never works. It
mhm,
never works. A few minutes talking it out with someone, a qualified someone. So if it's something personal, absolutely my spouse. If it's something that's really just about me, it's like I'm stuck here, my executive assistant. If it's something in the business, our integrator. So that's the first thing. The second thing, more than just talking it out, I have to stay grounded in the things that I do know are true. And so the big things that are important to me, my faith, my
mhm,
family, my relationships, how I'm using my time, my purpose, as you said, to go from panic to purpose. Those 3 can't find purpose for me. I have to find that within myself of what I'm going to pledge my allegiance to and who I'm going to be as an individual and what matters to me, which is grounded in scripture and the Bible and my relationship with Jesus. Those things are so timeless and important to me that I can run filters through that to find purpose. So I think
yes.
that's where the purpose is being reminded of these big things. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great father. I want to be a great son. These are the important things to me in my life, but I know I can't sort that out alone. And so not isolating myself and finding someone, but I think that's how I do it. I hope that's helpful for your listener out there.
It is. You know what? I'm going to put you on the spot one more time, and I'm going to ask you to talk directly to a leader that is overwhelmed right now, and just speak into that leaders, speak into their life.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there. First of all, you're not crazy. Um, it's normal what you're feeling. You can't, as a leader, you can't do the things that you do without taking risks. You're not someone who's phoning it in, taking it easy. You didn't stay in your first job. You're pursuing and climbing something of a higher purpose. And when you stick your neck out like there, you're going to get banged and bruised. And I've got bruises and scars and scrapes and stuff as well. I think it's worth it. I could stay where I was, but I've been there. I've been in that spot. I want to push myself to grow, to be transformed. If
Mm.
you're still up for that, let's do it together. I want you to, I want you to continue on that journey, but I can't promise you that this is the last scar, that this is the last bruise and bang. And so what I've made to myself is a commitment that the journey's worth it. And I think it's a moment for you to say, is this journey worth it? And there's no shame in quitting. You're not a coward if you say, I've actually had enough. We all find the limits. I've led a company that was too big for really what I needed to be doing. And I've transformed that company to actually be smaller on purpose because I didn't like it. I don't consider myself a quitter for retooling and changing us and getting us to the right size of where I want us to be. There's nothing wrong to want what you want. But if you're down and you're dejected, you have a choice to make to continue journeying forward or stay where you are. But the one constant that I've learned in life is change. And so
Mm.
if you want to stay where you are, I think just you don't have to make a commitment to growth at all costs and growth forever. But if you're wanting to stay where you are, maybe make a commitment to yourself to give that a time limit. I'm going to stay here for 6 months. I'm going to stay here for 3 years. I'm going to pause here. There's nothing wrong with resting, sprinting and resting before the sprint. But just don't make a commitment to stay there forever because um, if you're still waiting for email to catch on, it's 1980 and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like it has caught on. Like you can't stay where you were and where you are forever, but you can rest and take care of yourself so that you can then persevere. Hopefully that message resonated with somebody listening out there.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And to every leader and listening that's leader that's listening and watching right now, Cameron has just spoken to you. He has encouraged and inspired. And Cameron, for everyone that wants to be able to reach out to engage with you a little bit further, what's the best way to do that?
Well, you can certainly go to our company's website. It's avod3.com. If you need AV and event production, that's really the business case for me being on podcasts and why I'm pushed to do more of these is so that we're helping spread awareness about what our company does. So if you have 1,000-person national conference and you need an AV team, great. Go to avod3.com, say hello. We'd love to talk with you. We love to look at your old quotes and look at what you've been spending and just help you kind of steward that. And a lot of times we're not a great fit if it's not right, but that's what you can do professionally. Personally, this podcast episode has been a lot about, me as a leader and the lessons that I've learned and the scars and things from my past. And so I would encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love doing these. I get a lot of energy. You're a great host. I love doing these and just feeding off your energy. And so on a more individual level, I hope people connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Cameron Magee. My last name is spelled Magee. But yeah, go follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Say hello. Say you listened to this and loved it, or listened to it and had some feedback for me. I'm all ears. But yeah, let's connect on LinkedIn so that this isn't goodbye. This is hello.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this is not goodbye, Cameron, because we're going to have you back again. This has been a wonderful masterclass that I really feel like we just barely scratched the surface. And so there has to be a part 2 in the future if you would have us. But
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us. It's been phenomenal. We look forward to seeing you again. And to all of our listeners and viewers, you know what we do here. We like to support our guests. So I'm going to invite you. The link is in the description box. Click on it or like Cameron said, find him on LinkedIn and engage, talk, because we know the community that learns together grows together, and we want to continue to keep growing. Cameron, thank you again. It's been wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Best of luck with the show.
Thank you. All right, well, listen, that was amazing. Today's conversation reminded me that pressure is not something to avoid. it was a reminder that it's actually something to prepare for. What are your takeaways? I'm inviting you right now to go ahead and put it in the chat. And also, I know that there are 2 leaders in your network that you can engage in this conversation with. So what are you going to do? Right now, go ahead and click share. That's right. Hit the button and share this episode with a minimum of 2 leaders in your network. And then don't just send it and let it go. Have a conversation with them, because pressure is something that we all deal with. And be sure to subscribe to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. And until next time, stay grounded, stay focused, and keep leading with confidence and purpose.